I've said, well, when is a search actually wrong? When is this title search wrong? And the answer to the question, and it's a very loaded question, is that in the context of a joint tenancy asset, the title search may well be wrong, and often is wrong, if that asset is in fact owned as part of a partnership asset. Because in that case study scenario, even though the search will tell you invariably that the asset is owned as joint tenants, the Partnership Act in each and every Australian jurisdiction will in fact deem the joint tenancy ownership to be in fact tenants in common. So in other words, your title search will be sitting there telling you it's a joint tenants asset, but the law, being the Partnership Act in this instance, will deem it to in fact be owned as tenants in common. And that can be a radically important issue for a lot of estate plans and fundamentally change what would otherwise be assumed to be the actual outcome, regardless of what the will or the other estate planning documentation might say. Now, we would be up to, I think, at least half a dozen of these case study situations where whoever has done the estate plan initially has just assumed that the search is right and the issue hasn't actually come to life until after the event. So a fundamental issue there. And quite often when that issue comes up and it's raised as saying, well, you know, really this should have been something that had been taken into account, the feedback is, oh, well, how on earth, you know, what kind of legislation or rules allow that to be the case, and why would that ever be actually permissible? And our answer to that often is, well, you know what? The capital gains tax legislation does the exact same thing. In other words, the capital gains tax legislation deems the joint tenants ownership to be in fact tenants in common for tax purposes anyway. So the fact that the Partnership Act does the same and has done so for decades and decades really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And in any event, absolutely has to be on your list.